Dallas right now. Catch up with Jorge Sedano, ESPN, who's on the scene getting ready for this one. George, first and foremost, thank you. High noon for you. Thank you for hopping on. What's cooking?
All good, guys. I'm just hanging out. Just did a little bit of work, getting ready for the game tonight. But outside of that, just going to relax, maybe grab some lunch, and check out what's going to happen tonight. I'm curious to see if the Mavs wave the white flag or if they can actually mount some sort of resistance here in this series, which it hasn't looked like they could do outside of one half in Game 2.
My guy Dibs here just raised my eyebrows. We were playing Guess That Spread because I have not looked at the number yet, and the Mavericks are favored tonight, and I'm going, okay, who knows something? Somebody knows something, George. How could the Mavs be favored tonight?
Well, they were favored in Game 3 as well. They were a 3-point favorite. I believe they're a 1-point favorite today, right? Do I have that right?
Yep. That's correct, yes.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is just, I guess the Warriors have had some challenges closing teams out at times, right? Like this. So I think that it's just a little bit of that. It's just Luka's that good. And honestly, some of it is the Mavs have just not hit open shots. And the Warriors have done a pretty good job of kind of throwing them off their game a little bit with the zone and the box and one. But Jason Kidd has been pretty steadfast in saying that stuff hasn't really affected Luka, that Luka has been just fine. But it clearly has affected the other players. He hasn't necessarily mentioned those other guys. I know Spencer Dinwiddie played pretty well in Game 3, and Jalen Brunson's played pretty well for most of the series. But a guy like Maxi Kleber, who they've counted on in a big way, particularly since they've gone 5 out, and him being kind of the small ball center, he looks scared at times to take shots. Like, he's passed up open looks. So, outside of those 3 guys I mentioned earlier, there really hasn't been a lot to count on when it comes to the Mavericks. So I guess people are just assuming the Warriors have had some issues potentially closing out. Luka is so awesome, and maybe that some of the role players, because role players tend to play better at home, will ascend to the mean as opposed to regress to the mean.
I love the role players playing better at home drop. That'll be $1 to charity on behalf of all of us who lean on that, George, because it's absolutely true, except when you're looking at Dallas in Game 3. Can they right that ship? I mean, 11 for 48 from 3 in Game 1, 13 for 45 in Game 3. Do they have enough shooting and enough fight in them to actually play 4 good quarters?
I don't know the answer to that. But according to Jason Kidd, he feels like their shot profile is fine. He feels like they've gotten enough open looks and that they can, mount resistance in this game. And, he gave us a lot of cliches about, one game at a time, et cetera, one possession even at a time. But he did like their shot profile. So I guess, I don't know the answer to that, but according to him, he feels good about it.
George, we just had a caller a few minutes ago say that if this all ends, I mean, we're getting way ahead of ourselves, but if the Warriors, this group, was to win a championship, it officially means that they didn't need KD, KD needed them. What do you think about that statement?
I don't think it's as simple as that. I do think that on the surface, it would certainly feel that way. But, LeBron was still at the peak of his powers back then, man. You know what I mean? So I still feel like you probably needed everyone you could get to help. I'm not saying that they couldn't have beaten the Cavs in those scenarios, but, man, it certainly did help having him there. I know those series weren't that competitive, but some of the individual games were, and I think that he kind of helped you kind of tilt the scales in that scenario. But if I were doing some sort of pie chart, I would say that I would probably agree more with your caller than I would the other way around, although I don't think it's just as simple as it's definitive that he needed the Warriors more than the Warriors needed him.
And he still has a lot of race left to run in his own legacy and his own basketball life as well. If the Warriors do what is expected, historically no team has ever blown the 3-0 lead. What team gives them the better chance to win, and which series, George, is more compelling to you?
Okay, repeat that again? I'm sorry.
Which of the Eastern Conference foes would be a better matchup, and which one might be more compelling to the audience?
Well, look, I'm sure if the league was on truth serum, they'd love a Boston Golden State series. I think that either would be fantastic in its own way. Number one, you'd have, if it's Miami, you'd have two of the top 15 coaches of all time going up against each other. I happen to think that Eric Spoelstra is the guy right now. I think that when you look at that roster, when you look at the rosters he's had, right, he's made the most of every single roster he's had post LeBron. I mean, they had some really bad rosters there, and he got them in the playoffs, a ton of times. And look at this roster. I mean, people thought when Jimmy Butler was coming to Miami that he was coming to retire, as some people in Philly, some media in Philly said, that he's going to retire like a lot of people. They go to Florida to retire. And that certainly hasn't been the case. So I think just the matchup between the just contrasting styles would be fascinating between those two, beyond just Spo and Steve, who are two of the best to ever do it. And then with Boston, it would be fascinating because you would have obviously the old guard in this case, which, I feel like Steph hates when he hears that because he doesn't want to feel like the old guy, but he kind of understands they're now the old guys, going up against kind of the next coming of young stars, right, in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So you'd have that you could market. So either one would be cool, but I'm guessing that if you had Warriors-Boston, that the ratings would probably be through the roof and be some of the best ratings we've had maybe since the Warriors Cavs, or even further back when LeBron was with the Heat. Those numbers were the biggest that they had since Jordan. So, I mean, who knows? I think that's probably the series that gets the most interest, though, for sure.
Jorge Sedano, ESPN, in Dallas with us on Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. George, we're also having a conversation here about Steph Curry today. I know there's this Magic Johnson Award now, Western Conference Finals MVP. Maybe that gets awarded tonight, and there's a lot of momentum behind Andrew Wiggins with the series that he's had. But it feels to me, as great as he's been, it feels a little Iguodala 2015-ish. We're getting to a point where it's like Steph Curry doesn't have the NBA Finals MVP, and it's like, is it because we're constantly looking for someone else because we just assume Steph's going to be over here with his 28 points and his 7 assists? He's been fantastic in this series. So is Steph suffering from us just assuming that he's going to do what he does?
Yes, 100%. I'm with you on that. I believe that we take him for granted in a lot of ways. And he changed the game. And look, guys like Trae Young owe him a debt of gratitude, and I would imagine there'll be a lot of other guys moving forward that owe him a debt of gratitude, even though this guy's not, that I'm going to mention, is not a star player by any stretch of the imagination. But even a guy like Peyton Pritchard in that Boston series, right? Like, these guys all pattern their game after Steph. So I do think we overlook him. I do think he should have been the MVP of that series you were referring to when Andre won. So as great as Andrew has been, and Andrew has had to take on a lot, he's had the primary assignment on Luka. He's put up big numbers as well on offense. This is Steph's team. He's the engine. So if he doesn't get the inaugural Magic Johnson Award, I'm going to be pretty disappointed. Now, I'm guessing I will have a vote on this tonight if they end up winning, or whenever they end up winning, because I agree that they're not going to blow a 3-0 lead. So I will vote for Steph up to this point. As great as Andrew's been, and to me the greatest stat on Andrew has been on defense, not on offense, where basically the stat is that when he picks up Luka beyond half court, or, and in general, most of the time full court when he's picking him up beyond half court, it takes the Mavs 9 or 10, almost 10 seconds to get the ball out of Luka's hands and start their offense. And that's a testament to Andrew and his willingness to defend. But despite that, Steph is the reason that they're up 3-0. To me, the biggest reason, if I had to pick one. So I would vote for Steph in that scenario.
George, you mentioned the voting. How does this take place? Because we've always talked about how I think ballots are distributed at some point in the fourth quarter, so late game heroics maybe don't factor in. Can you just walk us through that process of the balloting for these types of awards?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's usually the last couple minutes. Now, again, they will distribute them in the fourth quarter, and they will tell you that they'll collect them before the end of the game. So, end of the game, I guess, is relative. If the game is not competitive, then my guess is they're going to pick it up with a couple of minutes left on the clock. If it is competitive, they may wait literally until the last second. I've been in multiple scenarios when it comes to that stuff. So that's the way it's gone down the couple of times I've done it.
Jorge Sedano in Dallas. Hey, man, love all the work throughout the series and the NBA playoffs. Thanks so much for hopping on for a few to get us ready for this one.
You got it, guys. Take care. Thanks.
All right. Yep, you too. There he is. Jorge Sedano, ESPN on the scene in Dallas.